First contact and ultimatum. The first sign that humanity was no longer alone in the universe came on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday morning. Commander Maya Reyes stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station, her coffee floating, forgotten beside her as she stared at the anomaly that had appeared just beyond lunar orbit. What had begun as a pinprick of distorted space had, over the course of 3 hours, expanded into a massive tear in the fabric of reality. Mission Control is demanding updates every 5 minutes, said Flight Engineer Kowalski, floating up beside her. What am I supposed to tell them? That we're watching a hole being ripped in space? Maya captured her coffee before it drifted away. 15 years in the Air Force followed by 5 as an astronaut had taught her that panic never improved a situation. Tell them exactly what we're seeing. Multiple objects emerging from what appears to be an artificial wormhole approximately 400,000 kilometers from Earth. The objects, ships undeniably, were emerging in a precise formation. Maya counted 17 massive vessels, each easily the size of a small city, followed by hundreds of smaller craft. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent material that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. They're deploying, Kowalski whispered, his voice tight with fear. Maya watched as the alien armada arranged itself in a perfect geometric pattern around Earth, positioning ships strategically over every major population center. The precision of their movements eliminated any hope that this was a peaceful delegation. Mission Control says all attempts at communication have failed, Kowalski reported. Military satellites are being jammed worldwide. Maya's military training kicked in. We need to document everything, every ship, every movement. It might be the only advantage Earth has. 4 hours after the wormhole's appearance, every screen, device, and communication system on Earth simultaneously activated with the same message. On the ISS, Maya and her crew gathered around their main monitor as an alien figure appeared. The being had a vaguely humanoid shape, 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso, but that's where the similarities ended. Its skin was a deep indigo that shifted, like oil on water, and its face featured 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern around a central breathing apparatus. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonics that made Maya's teeth vibrate. People of Earth, the alien began. It's English, perfect but oddly inflected. I am Archon Zexval of the Vex Collective. Your species has been observed for centuries and deemed worthy of assimilation. Your technology is primitive, but your biological potential is significant. Maya felt ice in her veins as the alien continued. You have 2 Earth rotations to dismantle your military forces, dissolve your governments, and prepare for integration into the collective. Those who comply will serve as productive members. Those who resist will be processed for resource extraction. The bye message ended abruptly, leaving screens worldwide displaying a pulsing symbol that Maya assumed was the mark of the Vex Collective. They're giving us 48 hours to surrender, Kowalski said, his voice hollow. Maya's jaw tightened. Or to prepare our defenses. Dr. Elijah Chen was mapping quantum fluctuations at the CERN facility in Switzerland when the aliens arrived. While the world erupted in panic around him, Elijah found himself focused on the data pouring in from his sensors. The wormhole's formation had created ripples through the quantum field that his instruments had detected before anyone even saw the first ship. Dr. Chen, his assistant called from the doorway. They're evacuating the facility. Elijah barely looked up from his screens. I need 10 more minutes. The data coming in right now could be crucial. Crucial for what? The world is ending. No, Elijah said firmly. It's changing. There's a difference. He pointed to a sequence of readings. See these patterns? The wormhole technology they're using creates distinctive quantum signatures. And look here. Their ships are generating similar fields just at a lower amplitude. His assistant blinked uncomprehendingly. What does that mean? It means their technology has rules, Elijah explained, a spark of excitement in his eyes despite the circumstances. And anything with rules can be understood. Anything that can be understood can be countered. When security finally forced him to evacuate, Elijah downloaded everything to his personal devices. As he was escorted to an underground shelter, His mind was already racing with possibilities. If the quantum signatures he'd detected were indicators of how the aliens' technology functioned, they might have just handed humanity its first potential advantage. In Washington, D.C., President Helena Rodriguez sat at the head of an emergency session of the National Security Council. Similar meetings were taking place in capitals across the globe. "What are our options?" she asked, her voice steady despite the unprecedented crisis. The Secretary of Defense shook his head grimly. "Our initial assessments suggest their technology is centuries beyond ours. Conventional military responses would be like throwing stones at tanks. We've detected energy readings from their vessels that suggest weapons capabilities far exceeding our most powerful nuclear devices," added the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. "And they've positioned themselves to strike every major city simultaneously." Rodriguez leaned forward. "So compliance is our only option? We just surrender the entire planet?" "We're not saying that, Madam President," said the National Security Advisor. "But we need time. Our scientists are analyzing everything we can about their ships and technology. If we can find a vulnerability, and if we can't," the President pressed. The room fell silent until a voice spoke from a screen on the wall. It was Maya Reyes, patched in from the ISS. "Madam President, we've been observing the alien vessels from orbit. There's something you should know." Maya shared her screen, showing readings the ISS had gathered. "They've deployed in a precise formation that suggests their ships are linked somehow, possibly a networked command structure." "A weakness?" Rodriguez asked. "Potentially," Maya confirmed. "And there's more. We're detecting regular energy pulses between all vessels. They're communicating constantly or perhaps coordinating their systems." The President turned to her science advisor. "Get this information to our top researchers immediately. I want to know if there's anything we can exploit." As the meeting continued, Rodriguez received word that United Nations Secretary-General Okafor was organizing an emergency session. World leaders were unified in the face of this existential threat in a way they had never been before. Across Geneva, Elijah Chen had gained emergency access to CERN's primary quantum computing lab. With the world counting down the hours until the VEX Collective's deadline, he was pursuing his theory about the aliens' technology with single-minded focus. "Their whole system operates on quantum entanglement principles," he explained to the hastily assembled team of physicists. "Their ships aren't just communicating, they're quantumly linked. It's how they coordinate so precisely across vast distances. That's theoretically impossible with our current understanding of physics," argued Dr. Miriam Okafor, a quantum specialist. "Exactly," Elijah nodded enthusiastically. "Which means they've solved problems we're still struggling with. But look at these patterns in the data. They're not just using entanglement, they're stabilizing it through artificial quantum fields." He brought up a simulation on the main screen. "If we can generate a counter-resonance frequency that disrupts those fields, we could break their network," Miriam finished, eyes widening. "It would be like cutting the nervous system of their entire fleet." Elijah nodded grimly. "But we need more data, and we need time." Time was running out. 36 hours into the 48-hour ultimatum, the UN Security Council convened for what might be humanity's last unified decision. Maya Reyes had been rushed back to Earth on an emergency shuttle and now sat beside Elijah Chen as he presented their findings to the assembled world leaders. "We believe the VEX ships operate as a single networked entity," Elijah explained. "This gives them tremendous coordination, but potentially creates a systemic vulnerability. If we can disrupt their quantum communication network, we might be able to temporarily disable or at least disorient their fleet." "With what technology?" demanded the Russian representative. "You're talking about countering capabilities we barely understand." "With this," Maya said, gesturing to a device Elijah had helped design in the past frantic day, "we call it a quantum field disruptor. Dr. Chen's team has been working around the clock to develop a prototype based on the data we've collected." "Has it been tested?" asked Secretary General Okafor. Maya and Elijah exchanged glances. "Not against Actual Vex technology, Maya admitted. We'd need to get close to one of their ships for that, which would likely trigger immediate retaliation, noted the Chinese premier. President Rodriguez stood. The question before us is simple. Do we surrender humanity's freedom and future to these invaders, or do we fight even against overwhelming odds? The chamber fell silent as the weight of the decision pressed down on everyone present. Even if Dr. Chen's device works, the British Prime Minister said quietly, we're talking about a temporary disruption at best. They would recover and then destroy us completely. Perhaps, Rodriguez conceded. But it would show them that humanity will not kneel without a fight, and it might buy us the time we need to develop more effective countermeasures. As the debate continued, monitors around the room suddenly activated, showing the image of Archon Zexval. Your deliberations are irrelevant, the alien stated. We have monitored your primitive attempts to analyze our technology. Your resistance would be futile and wasteful. The collective values efficiency above all. Submit, and your species will continue, albeit in service to a greater purpose. Rodriguez stepped forward, facing the alien directly. And if we refuse? The alien's four eyes pulsed with an eerie light. Then your species' potential will be harvested through alternative means. Your deadline approaches. Choose wisely. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. They're watching us, Maya realized. They've been monitoring everything. Elijah nodded grimly. Which means they know about the disruptor. President Rodriguez turned to the assembled leaders, her expression resolute. Then we need to give them something else to watch. I propose a twofold strategy. Publicly, we appear to be preparing for compliance while secretly deploying Dr. Chen's disruptors and preparing our forces for coordinated resistance. One by one, the world leaders nodded their agreement. In the face of extinction, humanity would stand unified. As Maya and Elijah left the chamber, she turned to him. Do you really think this can work? Elijah looked at the device in his hands, the product of humanity's desperate ingenuity. I think it has to, he said simply, because the alternative is unacceptable. The countdown to the deadline continued as humanity made its choice. Defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. The Vex Collective had demanded Earth's surrender, never expecting that in doing so, they would unite humanity as never before in a fight for its very existence. Defiance and devastation. The deadline came and went. Humanity's answer was delivered not through words but through action. As the 48-hour mark passed, Earth's military forces, rather than standing down as ordered, moved into defensive positions around major cities and strategic installations. Archon, Zexaval's face appeared on screens worldwide once more. The alien's features arranged in what might have been disappointment. Your decision is regrettable. The collective offered efficiency. You have chosen waste. The transmission cut abruptly, and seconds later, the world changed forever. The Vex ships positioned above Earth's major cities simultaneously activated, weapon systems that made humanity's nuclear arsenals look like children's toys. Beams of coherent energy, glowing with an unearthly blue light, lanced downward from the massive vessels. In New York, the beam carved a precise path through Lower Manhattan, vaporizing everything it touched. In Beijing, the ancient Forbidden City was reduced to ash in seconds. Similar strikes hit Moscow, London, New Delhi, and dozens of other population centers. But the aliens were strategic, almost surgical in their destruction. They weren't targeting civilians en masse. They were eliminating military installations, government buildings, and key infrastructure. It was a demonstration of power combined with a clear message. Resistance is futile, but total extinction is not yet inevitable. Maya. Reyes watched the devastation unfold from the underground command center, hastily established beneath the Rocky Mountains. President Rodriguez stood beside her, face ashen as reports streamed in from around the globe. Casualties? The president asked, her voice barely audible. Initial estimates are in the hundreds of thousands, reported the Secretary of Defense. They're specifically targeting our defense capabilities and command structures. And our countermeasures? Maya stepped forward. Dr. Chen's team has produced 50 quantum disruptors. They've been distributed to special forces teams worldwide, but deployment will be challenging with the Vex actively hunting our military units. Rodriguez nodded grimly. What about civilian evacuations? Ongoing but chaotic, admitted the FEMA director. The Vex aren't directly targeting evacuation routes, which suggests they want survivors. For assimilation, Maya added, remembering the Archon's words. The president straightened her shoulders. Then we make sure that doesn't happen. Commander Reyes, I want you to coordinate with our remaining military assets globally. We need to get those disruptors deployed, and we need to start gathering intelligence on the Vex ground forces. As Maya had suspected, the initial bombardment was merely the first phase. Within hours of the devastating strikes, smaller Vex vessels descended to Earth's surface. From these emerged the ground forces of the collective. Biomechanical soldiers standing nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies a seamless integration of the same iridescent material as their ships and what appeared to be living tissue. Reports from the field painted a grim picture. The alien soldiers were nearly impervious to conventional weapons, their armor absorbing or deflecting bullets with ease. They moved with unnerving coordination, functioning less like individual warriors and more like extensions of a singular intelligence. 3 days into the invasion, Dr. Elijah Chen worked frantically in what remained of CERN's underground facilities. Most of the complex had been destroyed in a precision strike, but the deepest labs remained intact, converted now into a research bunker where scientists from across Europe had gathered. The Vex soldiers appear to be using the same quantum network as their ships, Elijah explained to the assembled team. Their coordination is too perfect to be anything else. Dr. Miriam Okafor pointed to footage captured by resistance fighters in Germany. Look at how they move, like a hive mind. When one detects a threat, all of them react simultaneously. Which means, Elijah continued excitedly, that the disruptors should affect them too. We don't just have a weapon against their ships. We have a weapon against their entire military structure. The challenge was getting close enough to use it. The disruptors had a limited range, 100 meters at most, requiring deployment teams to get dangerously close to either Vex ships or ground forces. Elijah's tablet chimed with an incoming transmission. Maya Reyes, her face illuminated by emergency lighting in what appeared to be a mobile command vehicle. Dr. Chen, we've received reports from Shanghai. A special forces team managed to activate a disruptor near a Vex ground unit. Elijah leaned forward eagerly. Results? Mixed, Maya admitted. The soldiers within range became disoriented, their movements erratic, but the effect lasted only about 3 minutes before they seemed to adapt. Elijah frowned. They're probably shifting their quantum frequencies to compensate. We need to make the disruptors adaptive, able to continuously change their counter-resonance patterns. How long would that take? With the resources we have here, days, maybe a week. Maya's expression hardened. We don't have days, Dr. Chen. The Vex are establishing what they're calling processing centers in captured cities. We're getting reports of civilians being taken there, but no one's coming out. The implications hung heavily between them. The Vex weren't just invaders, they were harvesters. I need more information about how they're adapting, Elijah said finally. If we could capture one of their soldiers, or better yet, access one of their ships. I'll see what I can do, Maya promised before ending the transmission. In what remained of London, Captain Femi Adeyemi led a small resistance cell through the ruins of the financial district. The once proud skyline of the city was now dominated by a Vex ship hovering a kilometer above the Thames, smaller vessels constantly moving between it and the newly established processing center in Hyde Park. Movement ahead, whispered Liu, the team's scout. 2 Vex soldiers escorting prisoners. Femi signaled for the team to hold position. Through his binoculars, he observed 5 civilians being marched toward the processing center by 2 of the biomechanical soldiers. We take them out? Asked Diaz, the team's heavy weapons specialist. Femi considered their options. Direct confrontation had proven nearly suicidal in previous engagements. The Vex soldiers were simply too durable, too fast, and too coordinated for conventional tactics. But they also had their orders: test the disruptor technology and, if possible, capture Vex equipment for study. We use the disruptor, Femi decided. Liu, circle around and get as close as you can without being detected. Wait for my signal. As Liu disappeared into the ruins with the backpack-sized device, Femi positioned the rest of the team for ambush. Their weapons, conventional firearms, modified with experimental armor-piercing rounds, probably wouldn't kill the Vex soldiers, but they might slow them down long enough. When the aliens and their prisoners reached the designated ambush point, Femi gave the signal. Liu activated the disruptor. The effect was immediate and startling. Both Vex soldiers froze mid-step, their movement suddenly jerky and uncoordinated. The internal lights of their biomechanical bodies flickered erratically. Now, Femi shouted. The team opened fire, concentrating on the joints and apparent sensory organs of the aliens. One of the Vex collapsed under the barrage, blue fluid spattering from its wounds. The other managed to raise its weapon, but its aim was wild, energy blasts hitting buildings instead of targets. Get the civilians clear, Femi ordered as he approached. The downed alien weapon trained on its twitching form. The second Vex soldier suddenly convulsed and then went completely still, its systems apparently shutting down to protect from further damage. Femi tapped his communication device. Base, this is Adeyemi. We have a successful disruptor deployment and we have a captive, requesting immediate extraction. The surviving Vex soldier was transported to a secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps, where Elijah Chen and his team waited anxiously. The creature had been kept in a state of disruption during the entire journey. The quantum field generator continuously adjusted to prevent its systems from recovering. Remarkable engineering, Elijah murmured as he studied the alien's partially disassembled form. It's not wearing armor. The exoskeleton is part of its body. The Vex soldier lay on an examination table, its 4 limbs secured with reinforced restraints. Most of its outer plating had been carefully removed, revealing a complex internal structure unlike anything humans had ever seen, a seamless blend of advanced technology and biological components. Is it alive? Asked General Williams, who had been assigned to oversee the research operation. That depends on your definition, Elijah replied. It has organic components that appear to be specifically engineered to interface with the technological systems. But there's no central brain as we would understand it, just distributed neural networks integrated with quantum computing nodes. Miriam pointed to a particular component near what they assumed was the creature's central processing cluster. Look at this node. It's generating quantum fluctuations almost identical to the ones we detected from their ships. Elijah nodded excitedly. That's it, their communication system. Each soldier is a node in their quantum network, just like each ship. They're all connected to the collective consciousness. Can we use this to improve the disruptors? General Williams asked. Better than that, Elijah said, his eyes gleaming with sudden inspiration. We might be able to hijack their network itself. While scientists worked to unlock the secrets of Vex technology, the war on the ground grew increasingly desperate. The aliens had established control over most major urban centers, converting them into processing facilities where, according to escaped prisoners, humans were being subject to invasive scans and biological sampling before disappearing further into the Vex operation. Rural areas and mountainous regions had become the primary bastions of resistance. Conventional military forces had been decimated in the initial assault, but guerrilla warfare proved surprisingly effective against the Vex, who seemed programmed for more direct confrontation. Maya Reyes had established a mobile command center that changed location every 48 hours to avoid detection. From there, she coordinated what remained of Earth's military response, working closely with resistance cells worldwide. The disruptors are making a difference, she reported during a secure conference with the remaining world leaders. But the Vex are adapting. Each time we use the technology, it becomes less effective as they adjust their quantum frequencies. Dr. Chen's team reports progress on understanding Vex biology and technology, President Rodriguez responded. But we need more time. Time is the one thing we don't have, interrupted the Australian Prime Minister. The processing centers in Sydney are operating at full capacity, whatever they're doing to people in there. We know, Maya said grimly. We've received similar reports globally. The Vex appear to be systematically analyzing human biology, possibly for compatibility with their biotechnology. Assimilation, Rodriguez concluded, just as they threatened. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message for Maya. Commander, we've intercepted a Vex communication. You need to see this immediately. Maya excused herself and moved to a secure terminal where a young communications officer waited. We detected this signal being broadcast from the mothership over what used to be Geneva, the officer explained. Our quantum analysts believe it's meant for forces beyond our solar system. The message, translated from the Vex's complex communication protocol, sent a chill down Maya's spine. Primary harvest, proceeding at 68% efficiency. Resistance stronger than anticipated. Requesting reinforcement vessels for accelerated processing. Estimated completion of planetary conversion, 30 cycles. They're calling for reinforcements, Maya whispered. Yes, ma'am. And based on the quantum signature of the transmission, the message was sent through the same wormhole technology they used to arrive here. Maya's mind raced. If more Vex ships arrived, Earth's already desperate situation would become truly hopeless. They needed a breakthrough, and they needed it now. She immediately contacted Elijah. Dr. Chen, how close are you to a functioning prototype of the enhanced disruptor? Elijah's tired face appeared on the screen. We've made significant progress. The captured Vex technology has given us insights we never could have achieved on our own. We're close to a breakthrough on not just disrupting their network, but potentially accessing it. Accessing it? You mean we could tap into their communications? Theoretically, yes. Every piece of Vex technology, from their ships to their soldiers, appears to function as part of a unified quantum network. If we can crack the encryption of that network, we could listen to their plans, Maya finished. Maybe even feed them false information. Or more, Elijah added, an uncharacteristic hardness entering his voice. We might be able to issue commands. The possibility hung between them, a potential game-changer in a war humanity was rapidly losing. How soon? Maya asked. Give me 3 days, Elijah replied. And Commander, we've learned something else from the Vex soldier, something that might explain why they're here. He transferred a file to her secure terminal, analysis of the organic components found within the captured alien. The Vex aren't just assimilating species they conquer, Elijah explained. They're incorporating compatible biological traits into their own hybrid existence, and human neurological structures appear to be uniquely compatible with their technology. We're not just resources to them, Maya realized. We're upgrades. The revelation added new urgency to their already desperate situation. This wasn't merely an invasion. It was an evolutionary harvesting of humanity itself. As Maya ended the call, alerts began pouring in from resistance cells worldwide. The Vex had suddenly changed tactics, launching simultaneous assaults on every known human stronghold. They were accelerating their timetable. The race against extinction had entered its final phase. Humanity needed more than courage now. It needed a miracle. And perhaps in the quiet laboratories beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Elijah Chen was on the verge of providing exactly that. Maya stared at the tactical display showing Vex forces converging on resistance positions around the globe, her jaw clenching with determination. They had 3 days to turn the tide, or humanity would face not death but something far worse, the end of what made them human at all. The hidden advantage. 2 days after the Vex launched their coordinated assault on resistance strongholds, Maya Reyes stood in the rain outside a camouflaged bunker in what had once been the Black Forest of Germany. Around her, soldiers from a dozen nations worked together to fortify the position, one of the few that had withstood the aliens' latest offensive. Status report, she demanded as she entered the command center, water dripping from her tactical gear. Colonel Vasquez, formerly of the Spanish Special Forces, gestured to the main display. We've lost contact with resistance cells in Eastern Europe and most of Asia. The Vex hit them with overwhelming force. Survivors? Unknown. Communication. is spotty at best. The Vex are using some kind of signal jamming technology that adapts to our frequencies. Maya studied the map, the blue dots representing human strongholds now significantly fewer than they had been just days ago. And the processing centers? Operating at increased capacity, Vasquez replied grimly. Satellite imagery shows massive energy signatures at all locations. Whatever they're doing in there, they've accelerated it. Maya's secure communication device chimed, a direct link to Elijah Chen's laboratory. "Tell me you have good news, Doctor," she said without preamble. Elijah's face appeared on the small screen, excitement evident despite his exhaustion. "We've done it. The enhanced quantum interface is operational." Maya felt the first stirring of hope she'd experienced in days. "You can access their network?" "Not just access it," Elijah replied. "We can manipulate it. But there's a catch. The interface has to be physically connected to a major node in their system. A ship, preferably." The hope dimmed slightly. "You're telling me we need to get your device onto one of their vessels? The same vessels surrounded by their most concentrated forces?" "I'm afraid so," Elijah confirmed. "But there's more. We've completed the analysis of the captured Vex soldier, and we've discovered something remarkable about their neural structure." He sent a file to her device. Complex diagrams of the Vex neural pathways compared to human brain structures. The quantum technology they use for communication? It's not just a tool for them. It's fundamental to their consciousness. The Vex aren't individuals networked together. They're fragments of a single entity. Maya frowned. "Like a hive mind?" "More complex than that," Elijah explained. "Each Vex unit, whether ship, soldier, or system, contains a piece of their collective consciousness. They experience existence simultaneously as individuals and as parts of the greater whole. How does this help us? It means that our enhanced disruptor won't just scramble their communications," Elijah said, his expression suddenly severe. "It will fragment their consciousness itself. Imagine suddenly losing your connection to every sensory input except one isolated perspective. It would be psychologically devastating." Maya considered the implications. "So we're not just talking about a technical advantage. We're talking about psychological warfare," Elijah confirmed. "If we can deploy this at a system-wide level, we could potentially incapacitate their entire invasion force." It was the breakthrough they needed, but the logistical challenges remained daunting. Getting the device onto a Vex ship would require a mission with minimal chances of success and near-certain casualties. "I need volunteers," Maya told the assembled resistance leaders hours later. "A small team with the best chance of infiltrating a Vex vessel." Captain Femi Adeyemi stepped forward immediately. "My team has experience with their ground forces. We know how they move, how they think." Others joined him, specialists from Russian Spetsnaz, Israeli Mossad, Chinese Special Forces, and more. Humanity's elite warriors, setting aside national differences in the face of extinction. "There's a damaged Vex shuttle in the Berlin Processing Center," Vasquez noted, highlighting the location on the tactical display. "Intelligence suggests it's being repaired for return to orbit. If we can capture it, we could potentially fly directly to one of their motherships," Maya finished. "It's the best chance we have." The plan came together quickly. A desperate operation with too many unknown variables, but their only viable option given the rapidly deteriorating situation. 19 operators from 8 different nations would attempt to infiltrate the Berlin Processing Center, capture the Vex shuttle, and transport Elijah's device to the mothership above Geneva. The mission was codenamed Trojan Horse. Berlin, once the vibrant capital of Germany, had been transformed. The iconic Brandenburg Gate now stood overshadowed by the processing center, a massive structure of the same iridescent material as the Vex ships, extending from the ground like an alien growth that had consumed what was once the Tiergarten. Captain Adeyemi led his team through sewers that still remained largely intact beneath the occupied city. Each operator carried minimal equipment. Stealth was their only real advantage against the superior Vex forces. Dr. Chen's enhanced quantum disruptor, the culmination of humanity's desperate scientific efforts, was carefully protected in a specialized container carried by Sergeant Williams, an American demolitions expert. "Movement above," whispered Lou, who had taken point. The team froze as the distinctive heavy footsteps of Vex soldiers passed overhead. When the sound faded, they continued forward, eventually reaching an access point directly beneath the processing center. Intelligence from escaped prisoners had provided rough schematics of the interior layout, with the damaged shuttle reportedly housed in what had been an exhibition hall. "Remember," Femi told his team as they prepared to emerge, "standard weapons are minimally effective. Aim for joint, articulations, and sensory clusters if engaged. Disruptors are our primary offensive option, but they have limited charge. Use them strategically." Each operator carried a miniaturized version of the original disruptor, now refined to be more effective, but still limited in range and duration. "Shuttle first, then we worry about escape," he continued. "This is likely a one-way mission, but if we succeed, we give humanity a fighting chance." No one needed reminding of the stakes. They had all seen what happened in the processing centers, had all lost people to the Vex harvesters. The team emerged into the lower levels of the structure, immediately struck by the alien environment. What had once been human architecture was now threaded through with Vex biotechnology, pulsing conduits running along walls and ceilings like veins in a living organism. The air itself felt different, heavier, charged with an energy that made skin prickle and hair stand on end. The distinctive,